You also know, guys, this is Houston Sports Talk back into the video today, and today I'm going to be giving my Houston Texans free agency grades as it's past 1 week in free agency, and I'm sure the Texans will have other moves to make, but I wanted to make some grades for Houston Texans free agency. Let's get into it. So I'm not going to be going over every signing and giving a grade for every signing, but I'm going to give a grade over some signings. But let's get into it. So starting off with Jeff Okudah, cornerback who was added in from the Atlanta Falcons. He signed a 1-year, $4.75 million deal. This is going to be one of the signings here that's probably going to be one of my worst grades, and that's a C+. Just because the fact that Jeff Okudah has been solid, but most likely with Jeff Okudah signing, I don't think he's signed anywhere else so far, but probably puts to bed a reunion between the Texans and Steven Nelson. And Steven Nelson was just a really big impact for that Texans defense in 2023, and that's a huge loss. And Okudah, he's a good corner. I think he'll be good next to Derek Stingley Jr., unless the Texans bring in someone else or bring back Steven Nelson, but it's still a huge downgrade in my opinion. And then next is Danico Autry. I originally loved this signing. I was gonna if the Danielle Hunter signing didn't happen, I probably would have had it in either an A or A minus. But since Danielle Hunter was signed, which I'm not saying I'd rather have Danico Autry than Danielle Hunter, which is obviously not true. I just don't know what the place is for Danico Autry, because here's what I don't understand. You gave Danico Autry a 2-year, $20 million deal, paying him $10 million a year. This is a guy who's coming off a double-digit sack season with the Tennessee Titans. And then you go ahead and sign Danielle Hunter. I just don't know what was the point of giving him $10 million a year, or even signing him if you're going to sign Danielle Hunter. Much rather have Danielle Hunter, but what happens with Danico Autry now? I guess he just comes off the bench, and he'll come in and be a depth piece for the Houston Texans. I'm going to give this a B minus just because I don't know what will happen to him. But I just think unless he's providing a huge spark off the bench, I mean, you have Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. playing defensive end. I couldn't imagine, unless one of those guys get injured, that there will be a lot of time for Danico Autry to come in unless he makes some switch to defensive tackle. I mean, you're paying a guy $10 million to be a bench piece. I know he's coming off a double-digit sack season. I think that was maybe the Texans didn't know they were gonna be they were gonna be able to get Danielle Hunter. I have no idea. So then Azeez Al-Shaair, 3-year, $34 million contract. I gotta say, I love this deal for the Texans. This is how you Jeff Okudah, terrible way to replace Steven Nelson. Azeez Al-Shaair, that's how you replace someone who was a big impact to your defense. And I'm talking about Blake Cashman. There's going to be someone else in this video that the Texans find a great way to replace him. There's going to be multiple, great replacements, but this is one of them. This is a great way to replace someone like Blake Cashman, who was a big impact. Azeez Al-Shaair had a great season with the Tennessee Titans, one of his best years of his career. He's familiar with DeMeco Ryans, DeMeco coaching him in San Francisco as the defensive coordinator. I'm going to give this an A, but I'm not going to give it an A+, but yeah, I really do like this signing. And then Tommy Townsend. This is another signing, great way to replace someone who was really good for the team, and I'm talking about punter Cameron Johnston. Signing him to a 2-year, $6 million deal. We're talking about one of the best punters in the league out of Kansas City, and I love this signing. I'm going to give it an A-. And then I'm going to include Joe Mixon into this mix. I know if you're probably thinking the Texans originally traded for Joe Mixon. They traded a 2024 7th-round pick to acquire Joe Mixon. Why would he be included in all of this? I'm including Joe Mixon because the Texans technically did sign him, because they signed him to a 2-year, $19.75 million extension. So I am going to include Joe Mixon. I'm going to give this one a B+. I think the money they're giving him is very, very solid. You're not even giving him $10 million a year. And I don't think that's not, there's a good part of that is not guaranteed as well for the Houston Texans. So I really do, like that extension. I just think Mixon, he has had some troubles off the field, with personal troubles, and also the fact is that he is getting a little bit older in age, but still having Joe Mixon for the next couple seasons will be great. But you have him for this season and then the next 2 seasons after that. So Mixon is locked up for the next 3 seasons with the Houston Texans. And then any other couple deals that the Texans made this free agency, also the biggest one, Danielle Hunter. This is the only one that's going to get an A+. I had Danielle Hunter, who signed a 2-year, $49 million deal, outside linebacker. He's going to go back to defensive end because the Texans do not run a 4-3. This is an A+, and I think this is really the only move that the Texans have made this offseason that is an A+. The Texans have made notable moves like Azeez Al-Shaair, Danico Autry, and Joe Mixon, but this is the only move that deserves that A+. And I'm so excited the Texans are bringing him in, and he's coming off one of his best seasons in the league, 16.5 sacks. I'm really excited to see what he can do with the Texans this season. Number thoughts on all the Houston Texans' other free agency moves. There are so many other moves the Texans have made this offseason. I'm not going to give any grades, but let's go over all the other moves the Texans have made. They just signed Mario Edwards today. He's a really nice depth piece. They've re-signed Khalil Davis. They re-signed Charlie Heck. They signed Tim Siddle. They traded Malik Collins to the San Francisco 49ers. They signed David Sharpie. They signed Ravens linebacker Delshon Phillips. They also re-signed Noah Brown to a $4 million deal. They signed Browns cornerback Michael Ford. They also brought back Lonnie Johnson, a guy they drafted. They signed Foley Fadakowski. So in other moves like re-signing Desmond King, Eric Murray, Kaimi Fairbairn, and Dalton Schultz. So Texans have made a lot of moves this offseason. Something tells me they're not done. And they're going to make some other moves. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on my free agency grades and give me your free agency grades for the Texans so far. Peace out. Go Texans.